Although Meghan, of course, aware of that
immediate criticism, posted an Instagram story with
just 2 words, and this is meant to make us
think, everything's just wonderful between them. Oh, hello. Yes, okay. You really love him, Meghan. You really love him.
Tom Sykes, editor of The Royalist on Substack, joins me now. Tom, from an optics point of view, Catherine and William releasing quite a beautiful family image of their Christmas card today. By contrast, Prince Harry partying, looking worse for wear, on the slopes with his best friend, doing everything possible to stay away from his family.
Listen to those words carefully. A sense of fun and relaxation and enjoyment that you don't see when he's in public with Meghan. This is the host of a major show saying the quiet part out loud. The part we've all noticed, but perhaps been too polite to articulate. Harry looks liberated when he's away from his wife. He looks like himself again. Think about it. Really think about it. When was the last time you saw Harry genuinely smile? Not that tight PR-trained grimace he wears at Netflix events, but a real, full-throated laugh when Meghan was standing next to him. I'll wait, because I can't remember either. But I can remember him laughing in Aspen. I can remember him looking relaxed at the Kardashian party before those photos mysteriously disappeared. I can remember glimpses of the old Harry whenever he manages to slip away from Montecito. A bit blur-eyed. That's British understatement at its finest, isn't it? Harry didn't just look tired. He didn't just look like he'd had a rough morning. He looked like a man who'd been trying very hard to forget something. Or someone. And here's what makes this so damning. Compare this to the image the Wales family just released. William and Catherine, their 3 children, all smiling, radiant, genuinely happy. A picture of stability. A picture of a family unit that actually functions. Then look at Harry. Solo. Stumbling. Seeking refuge in the mountains with his mate, desperately grasping at some version of his old life. The optics aren't just bad. They're catastrophic. And Meghan knows it. Which is exactly why she posted that contemptuous 2-word jab. But here's what she doesn't realize. Every time she does this, every time she responds with mockery instead of compassion, she reveals more about the true state of their marriage than any tabloid ever could. Now we need to talk about the pattern. Because this Aspen trip? It's not isolated. It's not a one-off. It's part of a deeply troubling pattern that's been building for years. And once you see it, you can't unsee it.
That's right. But don't you pick up, Tom, and obviously a body language expert, but other people have looked closely at this, but sense of fun and relaxation and enjoyment, but in some of the other moments with Nacho that you don't see when he's in public with Meghan.
Listen to those words carefully. A sense of fun and relaxation and enjoyment that you don't see when he's in public with Meghan. This is the host of a major show saying the quiet part out loud. The part we've all noticed, but perhaps been too polite to articulate. Harry looks liberated when he's away from his wife. He looks like himself again. Think about it. Really think about it. When was the last time you saw Harry genuinely smile? Not that tight PR-trained grimace he wears at Netflix events, but a real, full-throated laugh when Meghan was standing next to him. I'll wait, because I can't remember either. But I can remember him laughing in Aspen. I can remember him looking relaxed at the Kardashian party before those photos mysteriously disappeared. I can remember glimpses of the old Harry whenever he manages to slip away from Montecito.
Again, this is a really interesting point, isn't it? Because we always associated Harry with being, he was happy-go-lucky, he was self-deprecating Harry, he was ready to take the mickey out of himself. And I suppose if there's one defining characteristic of Meghan and a lot of her friends that we saw on her film, it appears to be a sort of inability to be deprecating or take the mickey out of themselves in any way. Nacho Figueras, who he's known for a long time and tried to make a star in the Polo documentary that actually in the end didn't work out even remotely. I mean, it even made the top 500 of Netflix shows, even in the first few days after it was released, even with Harry's input backing it and that kind of stuff. So They had this polo club that was it called the New Fathers or something, or the New Dads, or something like that, or the California Dads or something, you know. But I suppose the thing is that I think is hard for Harry to square is, you know, as you say, always appears to actually be having a bit of a laugh when he's off with his mates.
Listen to those words carefully. A sense of fun and relaxation and enjoyment that you don't see when he's in public with Meghan. This is the host of a major show saying the quiet part out loud. The part we've all noticed, but perhaps been too polite to articulate. Harry looks liberated when he's away from his wife. He looks like himself again. Think about it. Really think about it. When was the last time you saw Harry genuinely smile? Not that tight PR-trained grimace he wears at Netflix events, but a real, full-throated laugh when Meghan was standing next to him. I'll wait, because I can't remember either. But I can remember him laughing in Aspen. I can remember him looking relaxed at the Kardashian party before those photos mysteriously disappeared. I can remember glimpses of the old Harry whenever he manages to slip away from Montecito. Happy-go-lucky Harry. Self-deprecating Harry. Ready to take the mickey out of himself. Those words describe the prince we knew before Meghan. The prince who stripped to his boxers in Vegas, yes, but who also founded the Invictus Games. Who served with distinction in Afghanistan, who was beloved by the public not despite his flaws, but because he owned them with humor and humility. Where is that Harry now? He's trapped. Locked away in a Montecito mansion, trotted out for carefully staged Netflix productions where every smile looks strained, every word sounds scripted. The only time we see flashes of the real Harry, the Harry we lost, is when he manages to escape. Quick flashback B-roll, the Kardashian party photos. Harry hugging Kris Jenner, looking loose and animated. Let's talk about that Kardashian party for a moment. December 2024. Harry shows up at a party thrown by one of the most photographed families on Earth. He's loose. He's hugging Kris Jenner. He looks genuinely happy. And what happens? The photos get deleted. Scrubbed. Why? The official story was about privacy, about the no social media box being checked. But come on. The real reason those photos disappeared is because Harry didn't look on brand. He looked worse for wear. He looked free. And Meghan couldn't have that, could she? She couldn't have the world seeing her husband looking liberated at someone else's party. So the photos vanished. But the damage was done. We saw him. We saw the real Harry peeking through. Just like we're seeing him now in Aspen. And here's the thing that should terrify Meghan. These escapes are getting more frequent. Nigeria trip? He looked uncomfortable beside her, forcing smiles for the cameras. But talking to veterans alone? Different man. Polo documentary filming? Stiff and corporate when Meghan was involved. But on the field with his mates? Relaxed. Genuine. Every time Harry gets away from Meghan, the mask slips. And every time the mask slips, we see a man desperately trying to breathe. You know what this reminds me of? It reminds me of those stories about people in controlling relationships who only show their real personality when their partner isn't around. When they're free to laugh without someone monitoring every word, every gesture, every expression. Is that what we're witnessing here? A man so controlled, so managed, so utterly suffocated that he can only be himself when he physically flees to another state? Now we need to address the elephant in the room. The thing everyone's thinking but perhaps afraid to say directly. Let's talk about Harry's state in that Aspen video. Those blurry eyes. That disheveled appearance. That look of someone who's been, how do we put this delicately, overindulging.
Marijuana, weed, cannabis, whatever you call it, is effectively legalized in California.
Yes, it is.
Right? And
there's a
in
lot of
large
legal
parts
drugs
of America. The only thing I do know is that if you walk around LA or New York City, it's really strange now. It just stinks of weed everywhere you go. And Harry's been pretty open, talking about how he uses drugs. He, you know, of course, this is the core issue with the whole issue with the Heritage Foundation that are trying to get the immigration records reopened. That Harry has talked quite openly, not just in his memoir. It's often he admitted that he'd used cocaine and that he'd used magic mushrooms. And that is true. He did admit those things in his memoir. But also, do you remember he did a interview with Gabor Mate before to promote the book, Dan. And did he say that drugs were like a windscreen wiper for his mind or something? There was some kind of new age nonsense about how, taking these questionable legality drugs were, wonderful for his mental health and his psychic health, which I think was an incredibly irresponsible, incredibly irresponsible message for Prince Harry to be.
Now, let's be crystal clear here. Tom Sykes lays it out. Harry has been remarkably open about his drug use. Not just in his memoir Spare, where he casually admits to cocaine and magic mushrooms. But remember that interview with Gabor Mate, where Harry described drugs as a windscreen wiper for his mind, where he essentially promoted psychedelic drugs as therapy. And here's where the hypocrisy becomes absolutely staggering. This is a man who positions himself as a mental health advocate, who lectures the world about wellness and healing, who partnered with BetterUp to supposedly help people with their mental health. And his solution? Drugs. Elite, expensive, questionably legal drugs that he promotes as spiritual enlightenment. Do you see the problem here? Do you see the danger in a globally famous prince telling vulnerable people that the answer to their pain is substances? We know it's not disputed by credible medical sources that heavy cannabis use can trigger psychosis, that it can worsen mental health conditions, that it's not the miracle cure Harry presents it as. But he doesn't care, because the rules don't apply to him. Quick flashback B-roll. Text excerpts from Spare about drug use, intercut with Harry's serious face during mental health campaign appearances. And now, looking at those Aspen photos, we have to ask, is this what Harry's healing looks like? Is this the result of his windscreen wiper therapy? A man so desperate to escape his reality that he flees his family days before Christmas to party with polo buddies in Colorado? But wait, it gets worse. Because while Harry's posting his blurry-eyed mountain escape, what's Meghan doing? Visual, side-by-side comparison. Harry and Aspen versus Meghan's Instagram announcement of Cookie Queen's documentary. She's posting promotional material for a documentary about 5 to 12-year-old girls learning to bake. On Instagram. To her millions of followers. On the same day that she and Harry released a statement demanding social media bans for children. Let me say that again slower, so the absurdity really sinks in. On the same day, the same actual day, that Harry and Meghan's foundation released a statement calling for children to be banned from social media, Meghan posted photos of children's faces to promote her Netflix show. To social media. The platform she claims is destroying children's minds.
Harry seems to have the kind of hardcore digital detox, social media, prohibitionist angle. And Meghan, as you say, just seems to regard it as a commercial tool. She's very enmeshed in that ecosystem. Want to support social media. Why would you have a social media account with several million followers? It makes sense, right? So just leaving aside for a second the sort of moral or those kinds of considerations. Just the sheer strategy of it, the sheer kind of brand strategy of it is so sort of vacuous and ill thought out and just really takes people for fools, I think. Meghan, the one who's literally said that her new stuff is going to be 2-minute clips of cooking.
Harry seems to have the hardcore digital detox. Meghan just seems to regard it as a commercial tool. That's not me saying it. That's an expert observer pointing out what we can all see. These two people are living in completely different realities. They're not just on different pages. They're reading different books. In different languages. In different universes. Harry genuinely seems to believe that social media is evil, that tech companies are farming our children's brains. He's given speeches about it. Filed lawsuits. Made it part of his identity. But Meghan? Meghan sees Instagram as her personal billboard, her commercial storefront, her way to monetize every single project, every single appearance, every single carefully curated moment. And the children? Well, they're just props in this twisted game, aren't they? Harry wants to shield them from the digital world. Meghan wants to parade them, or at least their images, for promotional purposes. On the same day. The same day. How do you reconcile that? How do you function in a marriage where your core values are so fundamentally opposed? Where one person sees social media as existential evil and the other sees it as a career tool? You don't. You can't. And that's exactly why Harry's running to Aspen. B-roll, quick montage of their failed Netflix projects, Polo documentary ranking graphic showing dismal viewership, clips from Harry and Meghan documentary. And let's talk about their Netflix deal while we're discussing contradictions. Remember when they signed with Netflix? The promise of groundbreaking content? The next big thing in entertainment? Well, the Polo documentary didn't even crack the top 500 Netflix shows in its opening week. Despite Harry's involvement. Despite Nacho Figueras being featured. Despite millions spent on production. Their strategy is all over the place because they have no strategy. They're two people pulling in opposite directions, contradicting each other at every turn, and expecting the world not to notice. But we notice. God, do we notice? So let's bring this full circle. Let's talk about what we're really witnessing here. Because this isn't about a ski trip. This isn't about one weekend in Aspen. This is about a marriage that's crumbling in real time, and we're all watching it happen through carefully controlled Instagram posts and paparazzi photos that reveal far more than they're supposed to.
Really weird. But it just keep coming back to those pictures of Prince Harry where he finally looks happy because he's on the slopes, he's playing polo, he's away from Meghan.
I just keep coming back to those pictures of Prince Harry where he finally looks happy because he's on the slopes. He's away from Meghan. Finally. Looks happy because he's away from Meghan. Let those words echo for a moment. This is a major broadcaster saying what we've all been thinking. Harry only looks genuinely happy when he's physically separated from his wife. Not happier, not more relaxed, but genuinely happy. As in, this is the only time we see authentic joy on his face. What does that tell you? What does that say about the state of their marriage? What does that reveal about the last 5 years of Harry's life?
I mean, look, I think they obviously had very different ideas for where they were going to be at the end of 2025. You know, I imagine if you look back at their mood board for, what the 5 years were going to look like, I don't think it would have looked like sort of struggling around, as actually in that piece I wrote, I quoted the editor of Decider, saying, look, by Netflix's own admission, like just by the numbers, this partnership has not really been a success, with the exception of Harry and Meghan. That's because they produced it. It's because they sat down and gave tell-all interviews. It's because they basically sold their story to the tabloids, right? The thing that they've always criticized other people for doing. If you really look at where they were pre that announcement when they were on tour in Africa with Tom Bradby, and they gave that interview saying how unhappy they were and that they'd been harangued and harassed and they were going to sue everybody and blah blah. If you actually look where they were the day before that interview went out, of the most influential people in the world at that stage, and they could have had an incredible and untold influence on British royal family,
and just the
Commonwealth, the culture. They could have genuinely, there was genuinely a lot of excitement about this mixed race person coming into the royal family, giving it a well-needed kick. A massive rewriting of history by Harry and Meghan when they say that they were hounded, they were hated, and they were despised. And then it turned out that actually what they were talking about is like in the comments on social media. Well, I mean, Christ, if you're going to sit around and read the comments, Dan, as you and I well know, and take each one to heart, you're soon going to go pretty crazy. And when you think from where they were 6 years ago, it's quite incredible that this is where they've ended up, flogging jam on the internet. I mean, it's astonishing fall from grace, really.
Could he ever have imagined that this is how Megxit would work out? That's the question, isn't it? 5 years ago, Harry walked away from the British royal family. Walked away from his brother, his father, his country. He did it, he told us, for love. For freedom, for a better life, for mental health and privacy and all those buzzwords they threw around. And now he's escaping to Colorado to feel free. Now he needs a boys' trip to remember what happiness feels like. Now he looks liberated only when he's away from the very person he sacrificed everything for. An astonishing fall from grace. That's the understatement of the century. Visual, split screen throughout. Left side shows Harry's transformation from jovial prince to tense, controlled figure. Right side shows corresponding photos of Meghan becoming more dominant in frame over the years. Think about where Harry was before Meghan. Yes, he had problems. Yes, he made mistakes. The Vegas photos, the Nazi costume, we all remember. But he was also beloved. He was the people's prince. He had purpose through Invictus. He had his brother by his side. He had a future. What does he have now? A $14 million mortgage. A wife who mocks him publicly with, oh, hello. Yes, when he's clearly struggling. A Netflix deal producing content nobody watches. Children he's so terrified to show the world that we barely know what they look like. And most telling of all, a desperate need to escape that life whenever possible. This is what freedom looks like in the Meghan Markle worldview. Running away from your family days before Christmas. Looking worse for wear on mountain slopes. Needing your mate Nacho to remember what laughing feels like. Getting into such a state that even your supporters have to admit you look a bit blur-eyed. You know what this reminds me of? It reminds me of those old photos of Harry when he was genuinely trapped in Afghanistan, dealing with the horrors of war. Even then, even in a war zone, there are photos of him smiling. Genuine smiles. Because at least there he knew who he was. He had brothers in arms. He had purpose. He had identity. Now he's trapped in a different kind of war zone. A Montecito mansion where every move is calculated, every appearance is staged, every smile has to be approved by lawyers and PR teams and Netflix executives. Where his wife sees him as a brand asset, not a partner. Where his children are kept away from the world, not for their protection, but for future monetization opportunities. Where the only time he can truly breathe is when he physically flees to another state. Final visual, slow zoom on the oh, hello. Yes. Instagram graphic, ominous music swelling. And Meghan's response to all of this? To her husband's obvious distress? To the world watching her marriage implode? Oh, hello. Yes. 2 words. Dripping with contempt. Dripping with that trademark Meghan Markle sarcasm that she thinks is clever, but really just reveals the truth. She doesn't care. She doesn't care that Harry looks miserable. She doesn't care that he needs to escape. She doesn't care that the world is watching her husband unravel. She only cares about controlling the narrative. And that 2-word Instagram story? That's her trying to tell us that everything's fine. That we're imagining things. That Harry's not really escaping, he's just having a boys' weekend. But we see through it now, don't we? We see the pattern. We see the truth. We see a man who gave up everything for love and found himself in a prison far worse than any royal protocol could have created. So here's the question we need to ask. How much longer can this continue? How many more boys' trips before Harry doesn't come back? How many more passive-aggressive Instagram posts before the facade finally, completely, irreversibly collapses? Because make no mistake, this marriage is on borrowed time. And every blurry-eyed photo from Aspen, every solo appearance, every desperate escape brings us closer to the moment when Harry has to make a choice. Stay in the prison he built for himself, or do what he should have done years ago, run. Just keep running. And this time don't look back. The mask is slipping. The truth is leaking. And, oh, hello. Yes, isn't going to cover it up anymore.